Hello, welcome to another episode of Astro-Connections. Today we're going to be discussing the portions of the universe, okay, and their correspondence with the portions of man's sevenfold being. Boom. Alright, so you see that right there? Let's get a good look. Alright, so today we're going to be breaking it down. Telepathic suggestion, psychic attack, and the connection with the sevenfold being of man and its universal correspondences as found in astrology. So what are the universal correspondences? Okay, 7 planets, right? Saturn, I went over this before, but we'll go over it again. Saturn, the physical body related to the mineral kingdom. The moon, the etheric double, related to the vegetable kingdom. Then we got the sun, which is the vitality or your life forces, prana, as you might call it. Mars, the animal soul, the astral body, okay, related to the animal kingdom. Then you have Mercury, the mental body, which is the human kingdom. Then you have your aura, this is important, your aura, your Buddhic body, your higher self, Jupiter. And then you have Venus correlating with your divine fragment or your creative intelligence, the more refining part of yourself. So, what's that got to do with psychic attack and telepathic suggestion, and what does that have to do with you? It has a lot to do with you, because whether or not you know it, these forces are constantly at interplay. What is suggestion, telepathic suggestion? Well, what happens is we're suggesting something either consciously or unconsciously to the subconscious or unconscious mind through 3 forms of suggestion. So there's 3 kinds. All right, there's auto-suggestion. That's when we consciously suggest something to our unconscious mind, subconscious. There's conscious suggestion, which is exactly what it says. And then there is hypnotic suggestion. Hypnotic is you take a person or the subject and render them insensible to anything that's passing, any magnetic passes. And then what happens is, or you can make suggestions to them while they're asleep. So there's those 3 kinds of suggestions that we got going on here, okay? So pick this back up in a second. So we have to understand, in the realm of the mind, right, there is neither time nor space as we understand them, okay? The subconscious mind that we're making suggestions to, telepathic suggestions, works on images. It doesn't work on words. So it doesn't pick up when we say phrases or sentences. It's a visual. What we're doing is, even if we're using words, we're creating visuals for the mind. Now, like they say, that nobody can hypnotize you to do anything that's not in your nature. Well, it doesn't mean that you don't have some sort of animal nature. We don't necessarily know what our nature is. If people are telepathically putting things into our field, okay, then that could be affecting us in ways we have no clue about until all of a sudden the action arises out of us. So a good way to correlate this would be to understand that the action of ringing the doorbell, we could press the button, or there could be a floorboard where the wires are at, and then we could connect the wires, and then that could create the ringing of the doorbell. One is under the floorboard, it's unconscious. The other is consciously ringing the doorbell, but either way the action is produced of the ringing of the bell. The action is the same. How we got there was, if we did it with the wires, is more akin to if we suggested things over time to somebody's subconscious mind, created images that resonated with the individual until we created the action that we wanted from that individual. Sometimes that action is not harmonious, and sometimes it manifests itself as physical illness, as lots of physical issues. It could create really serious problems in your life, especially for those of you who may be sensitive, those of you who may be empathic, those of you who obviously can pick up energies around you. And for those of you who definitely don't know that you're picking up and are at there's an interplay of this going on, it's good to keep this in mind. So what happens? So suggestions, their primary aim is to create a mental atmosphere, okay? Keep that in mind. About the soul of a person. And when we talk about the soul of a person, so suggestion is creating a mental atmosphere about the soul of a person. The soul of a person, in this sense, we're talking about mental and emotional. Those are the things we're playing on, mental and emotional. So, until a sympathetic response, okay? Until a sympathetic response or reaction is elicited. So we're eliciting from a person, if we were a psychic attacker, if we're being attacked, then somebody would be eliciting a certain sympathetic response to us in relation to what they were picturing in their head about us, or suggesting to us consciously, or through hypnosis maybe while we were sleeping. So one thing you have to understand about suggestion is that it can come from many different planes. It can come from somebody who's incarnated, somebody who's already living. It can come from demons, ghosts, entities with bodies, entities without bodies, people who are incarnated, who are astral traveling to you in your dreams. Things like that can create all sorts of suggestion, mental images. A lot of times the first sign of some sort of psychic interplay or psychic attack would be as if it's in your dreams. You'd start to have some funky dreams. You'd start to notice some things. All right? So, once that reaction, once that mental atmosphere elicitates that sympathetic response from the subject or the person that was being attacked or influenced psychically. Now keep in mind, a lot of psychic attack or a lot of psychic issues, things that stem on the subtler planes and then start to manifest in us physically, are really just people not realizing that they're actually putting out this negative energy or that they're actually affecting their environment in this way. A lot of times it's not really, it's not really something that people are doing deliberately. So we shouldn't just be like, oh my God, this person's, deliberately affecting my environment. If I'm somebody who's around you and I'm not aware of the mental energy, the psychic energy that I'm putting out, and I'm thinking negative thoughts, I might not realize it that I'm carrying you down or that I'm affecting you negatively. So a lot of times we don't necessarily want to be like attacking the person who we think might be injecting that type of energy into our environment, because they may just be ignorant, and most of the time that's the case, that they're ignorant that they are injecting that sort of energy into the environment in the first place. People are not usually aware of this. So don't just go out and be like, going to attack the people who you perceive might be throwing this energy your way. Because a lot of times they just need some healing too. Some awareness. So once this reaction is achieved, the battle is half over, for the gate of your city has been opened from within, and there is free ingress. So the telepathic suggestion of definite ideas can now proceed rapidly. So then people could just start to rapidly come on with the telepathic suggestion once you've let them in, okay? Once they've elicited a sympathetic response. So there are two gates, right? There are two gates, okay, from which a psychic attacker can gain entrance. Those gates are from self-preservation instinct and a sexual instinct. Fear, desire. So here's where it gets interesting, okay? Because now we're going to relate it back to the universal correspondences to the sevenfold being of man and start to see how psychic energy, psychic attacks, whether they're deliberate or not, whether they're done by people who know what they're doing or not, they're done by people who understand what they're doing or not, link back to the body and how it starts to unfold and manifest itself physically. Because people will be like, oh, well, there's a way to explain this phenomena physically. And if there is, you should always seek to do so first. You should always look for a physical explanation. before you start on the psychic side of things. But a lot of times there is a lot of connections and a lot of things that aren't being explained away physically, and then we should not hesitate to seek a psychic answer to something that would indicate that it would be psychic in nature. So here we go, back to our sevenfold being of man, right? So check this out. Here's what we got. Just use this as a pointer. So here's what we got here. Okay? Now it's important to keep in mind that the only way that a psychic attack can be successful is if it's launched at you and you respond. So it has to come from within. That's the whole hypnosis cannot make you do anything that's not in your nature. Well, if you've decided to take or actually to give out a response that stems from either fear or desire. So fear, like we talked about, the self-preservation instinct. Desire, like we talked about, the sexual instinct. The two gates that allow people to penetrate into you. So these things come from within. That's why it's called suggestion. People are suggesting things, and then things are coming from within. How is it getting in there? Well, first, nothing can get in or attack you, all right, unless it gets by the aura, the higher self, like we talked about, the Buddhic body, which corresponds to Jupiter, all right? So, until the aura is pierced, all right, nothing can happen. How does the aura get pierced? It happens from within. What happens within? We decide to respond to messages, telepathic suggestion, either hypnotically or consciously, from other people or entities. And then what happens when we do this is when we respond with love, or when we respond with fear, or we respond with desire, that allows our aura to be penetrated. So the aura is impenetrable unless we choose from within to take a certain response that opens us up. What happens then? Okay, what happens then is that it starts to affect the mental body, right? We talked about that, Mercury ruling the mental body. Then, okay, we got the astral body. These psychic attacks, like I said, somebody could be traveling astrally to you. This stuff could be happening on an astral level and then starting to manifest itself physically in your life. So what happens is you have your vitality and your life force as corresponding with the sun, your prana. This is vitality, life energy. When you start to feel like you're losing vitality, when your energy is down, when your energy is low, when certain things don't make sense, when you're extra sleepy and you know like this should not normally be the case, when there starts to become psychosomatic illnesses or things you can't necessarily explain away physically, after speaking with doctors, after, doing your due diligence, okay? What happens is you may be experiencing low vitality from a physical body standpoint, which correlates to Saturn. This is where the etheric double comes in, right? The etheric double is the envelope through which the life forces play. This is related to the moon. So the etheric double, it's like our second body. It's basically a plasma. You can read about it if you read about Hawaiian healing, the Huna healing. It's like using that second body, that etheric double, to create immediate healing inside the physical body on the physical level. So this etheric double is basically like everything, the carbon copy of what we need to restore our body every time we need it restored. So the vitality or the life force, when we open our auric body by having a response of fear or desire to suggestion, the basis of psychic attack, or anything psychic, whether it was deliberate or ignorant, coming from an entity or somebody on the other side, or somebody in a physical body, incarnated already, or somebody with a past life connection to us, either way, if we've allowed ourselves to be penetrated, if we've allowed it from within, and then the etheric double becomes affected, the etheric double could leak prana, causing physical issues in the physical body. So we have the etheric double leaking prana, which is our vitality and our life force, causing all sorts of problems in our lives. So what we want to do is we want to be mindful of that. We want to become aware and understand that there is a lot more at play than just the physical. Of course, you should seek physical explanations and practical explanations. But you should also keep in mind that there is a lot more than meets the eye. There's a lot more to everything that could be going on with you physically sometimes than would appear to be just physical. And we shouldn't discount this entire scope just because we want to be logical and practical. Because sometimes this is the logical and practical explanation, especially when the shoe fits. So keep this in mind. It's good to know. I think that illustrates very nicely how all these different bodies have an interplay with each other and what can happen. And then hopefully later on we'll go into how to heal it if it is happening, how to prevent it from happening, and how you as an individual might play around with these forces in yourself. So thanks for tuning in. We'll definitely keep talking about this as the days go by. Stay tuned for more content. I'm Jay Cook, not an astrologer, the astrologer, and I'll be talking with you later.